It started with a group text at 5:42 p.m. on a Thursday. "Hey, we'd love it if you cooked for Thanksgiving like you used to. You always made it special." My thumb hovered over the screen longer than it should have. My brain should have said no, but my stomach remembered the scent of rosemary turkey, and my heart remembered the smiles, fake or not, that I thought meant something. They knew exactly how to reel me in. Guilt bait wrapped in nostalgia. I hadn't spent a holiday with them since the incident at my sister's engagement party. The one where I caught her fiancé whispering sweet nothings to my ex, and when I brought it up, I got called dramatic. But Thanksgiving? That used to be mine. I'd been cooking since I was 12, standing on a cracked step stool in our old yellow kitchen, mimicking Food Network chefs while Mom chain-smoked out the window. I fed this family when we had nothing but lentils and expired spices. I made 5-course meals out of panic and pantry scraps. So yeah, part of me wanted to believe this invite was real, that maybe they missed me. So I replied, "What time should I start?" No one even said thanks. Just a thumbs-up emoji. I should have known. I dropped $870 on groceries that Friday. I still remember the total because I stared at the receipt in the parking lot thinking, this is more than my rent used to be. I bought free-range turkey, organic sage, real maple syrup, not that bottled trash they used to buy and pretend was just as good. I went all in, like I always do. They asked for my stuffing, the one with caramelized leeks and sausage from that Italian butcher across town. They wanted sweet potato casserole, no marshmallows, topped with bourbon pecans the way Aunt May used to pretend she invented, even though that was my recipe from 2013. They wanted everything from me, and I gave it, like I always had. I prepped for 36 hours straight, slept on and off in my kitchen chair with timers waking me up every 90 minutes. My feet were blistered. I burned my left palm pulling the pie crusts out too fast. I sliced my thumb thin like paper trimming fresh herbs. But when I looked at the dishes lined up on my counter, I felt useful. That feeling I used to only get when I gave until I was hollow and called it love. Then 2 days before Thanksgiving, at exactly 2:17 p.m., another message popped up in the group chat. It said, "LMAO, just joking. We don't actually need food. You're not family anymore." And then came the emojis. Laughing, clapping, a popcorn gif. No one defended me. Not even my cousin Nate, who I once drove 6 hours for when his car broke down in Reno. My own mother sent a voice note with a fake laugh, saying, "You know we're just messing with you. Don't be so sensitive." That was the moment something cracked. Not loud, not dramatic, just a slow split in the center of my chest, like a quiet wishbone being pulled until one side gives. I didn't reply. I didn't cry. I didn't cancel the turkey. I just opened the fridge, looked at everything I made, and started packing it into containers, neatly, like it was going somewhere important. And it was. Not to them. Not this time. Because this story isn't about being hurt. It's about what happened when I decided I was done begging to belong. Stay with me. It gets colder. Then it gets even. I packed the food like I was sending it off to war. No labels. No names. Just weight. Weight of tradition. Weight of silence. Weight of a thankless childhood sautéed in butter and lies. I stacked the containers in the back of my car, every single one. The turkey barely fit, even with the seats down. My hands were trembling, not from exhaustion anymore, but from clarity. Rage and purpose don't feel all that different once they settle into your bones. I didn't text them. I didn't call. I just drove, but not to the family house. I made a detour. 3 blocks from my apartment, I turned into the narrow gravel driveway of the East Street shelter. The lights were on. A woman was sweeping the porch with one hand and holding a phone to her ear with the other. She saw me, wary at first, until I opened my trunk and said, "I have dinner. Enough for 25. She blinked, as if she didn't understand me, then smiled like she did. "Come in." We didn't talk much. She didn't ask questions. She opened a side door, led me to the industrial kitchen, and started heating trays while I unpacked everything. I wrote down every dish and every ingredient, just in case of allergies. I stayed for about an hour. I didn't stay to eat. I left with my hands empty, my soul lighter. And still, I dropped one more thing off on the way home. Their food. I placed it on their front porch at 6:15 a.m. Thanksgiving morning. Every tray was hot, wrapped in foil, sealed like a gift. I didn't knock. I didn't ring. I left a single post-it note stuck on top of the turkey tray. It said, Since I'm not family anymore, I figured you could taste what that feels like. I went home, took a shower, and sat in silence. At 10:03 a.m., my phone blew up. First, a message from my cousin Lisa. Why are you being dramatic? We told you it was a joke. Then my sister. You really brought food? Like you actually cooked? Bro. Then my mom. I raised you better than this guilt trip garbage. Grow up. And then my favorite, from my Uncle Dave. If you think this earns you your spot back, it doesn't. This stunt just proves why you don't belong. Not once did anyone say thank you. Not once did anyone ask how I was doing. Not once did they even acknowledge that I fed their entire Thanksgiving. I didn't respond. But I did post something. A single photo to my socials. Me at the shelter, standing next to 3 smiling kids, and a woman holding a plate of my stuffing. Caption. Cooked for the only people who've ever said thank you. The likes exploded. DMs poured in. Strangers, old classmates, even an old chef mentor of mine, saying the food looked incredible. One girl I hadn't spoken to since college messaged, "You were always too golden for their rust." I smiled, but inside I was boiling, because hours later, someone tried to twist the knife even deeper. That night, I found out my family had posted their Thanksgiving photos. One of them was my cousin, with the turkey I cooked, the pie I baked, the stuffing they mocked. Captioned. Family made with love. Nothing tastes better. No mention of me. They even tagged my ex-fiancé, sitting there at the head of the table. That was when something in me shifted. Not shattered. Not broke. Shifted. I was done letting people devour my soul and spit out my name. Because if I wasn't family anymore, then I didn't owe them peace. And what I did next? Let's just say the next course came cold. By Friday morning, I was everywhere. And yet, to them, still invisible. My photo at the shelter had been shared over 3,000 times. I got a message from a food blog asking if they could repost it. A reporter from a local station asked for an interview. But the spotlight didn't excite me. It sobered me. Because while strangers were cheering, my own bloodline was sharpening knives behind my back. The betrayal wasn't new. It just wore better makeup this time. I spent the day in my apartment, not answering a single text. I rewatched their Instagram stories, my eyes stuck on the frame where my cousin cut into my turkey like it was hers. My mother's smug face, tilted just so, glass of wine in hand, lips pursed like she owned the world. But she didn't own me anymore. I opened my laptop, pulled up the shared family drive. Every recipe, grocery list, meal plan, from every holiday, birthday, engagement party, I had written them all. I documented every time I fed them, organized the catering for weddings, saved their events when vendors bailed last minute. I'd been the unpaid executive chef, unpaid planner, unpaid cleaner. And it was all there, in my name, with timestamps. So I downloaded everything, and then deleted it from the drive. Then I made 3 calls. One to the shelter, offering to cook a monthly dinner for them and teach a basic cooking class. The second, to a friend of mine, a chef with 2 million followers, who said, "You finally ready to stop hiding and open that pop-up I told you about?" And the third, to a lawyer, not for suing, not yet, but to find out what my rights were regarding unpaid labor and intellectual property. See, my sister had submitted a dish to a local magazine. The stuffing recipe. My stuffing recipe. They'd printed it. Her name was on it. When I found the page online, I stared at the headline like it had slapped me. Danielle's family famous chestnut sage stuffing. Family famous. No mention of the brother she once screamed at for measuring too much like a nerd. That night, I did something I hadn't done in 5 years. I opened my journal. Not a digital one. Not a blog. A black, leather-bound book with grease stains and torn corners, where I wrote everything I couldn't say. I flipped to a blank page and wrote. They taught me to serve. They forgot I could starve them. The next morning, I woke up to an email. It was from a woman named Krista, editor of a huge food site I'd admired for years. Subject line, "Let's talk about your Thanksgiving post." I opened it, expecting a polite note. Instead, it read, "Hey, saw your shelter photo. Been following you quietly for a while. I think you've got more than food to offer. You got a story. Want to publish it? Full feature. Your name. Your words. Let me know." I froze. And then my phone buzzed. It was my cousin again. A voice note. I didn't want to open it, but I did. "Hey, so, everyone's kinda mad. Mom says you're embarrassing the family. But like, I get it, okay? It was harsh. Maybe come over this weekend? We can talk it out." Also, could you resend that risotto recipe? I laughed. A hollow, painful, real laugh. Because they still didn't get it. They thought I wanted back in. But I was already building something outside their gates. That night, I accepted Krista's offer. And the next morning, I posted this to my feed. Funny how family only remembers your value when they need a recipe. This year, I finally remembered my own. Stay tuned. No hashtags. No location. Just fire. My DMs exploded. But you know who didn't reach out? My mom. Until 3 days later. When she called me. Twice. Left a voicemail I'll never forget. You're making a fool of yourself. You know damn well we love you. This isn't how you fix things. Take down the post. Stop acting like a victim. We gave you a place at the table. I didn't reply. Because I finally realized something chilling. They never gave me a place. They handed me a plate, told me to serve them, and called that love. And what happened next? Let's just say the next family dinner ended with more than just burned bridges. It ended with exposure. I didn't plan to go viral. All I did was share the truth. One photo, foil-covered trays, handwritten labels, my gloved hands leaving dinner at the doorstep of a family that disowned me with a smirk. Caption: I cooked out of habit, not love. Left it on the porch. They didn't knock on my door when I needed them. I won't knock now. By the time I woke up, 6,200 people had shared it. By noon, it was over 40,000. Comments poured in. Bro, this hit. My mom did the same. Family isn't blood, it's respect. I should have felt vindicated. But my hands were shaking. Because I wasn't done yet. Not even close. That voicemail from mom. How she called me the embarrassment, replayed in my head on loop. The gaslighting. The erasure. They thought I'd let it slide. Again. But this time, I had something they didn't. Receipts. I went through my archives. Photos from past holidays, documents I scanned for them, catering invoices in my name, the time I bailed them out with a $2,000 emergency grocery run for their New Year's party. All logged, dated, archived. And then I saw something that flipped the switch completely. An old group email thread from last year's Thanksgiving planning. Subject: let's just let him cook. He owes us. There it was. In writing. Sent by my aunt. Replied to by my sister. LOL true. Plus he's single. What else does he have to do? They used me like a hired hand. Worse, they expected me to thank them for it. I printed the email. Read it out loud. Then tore it in half. This time, I'd be the one setting the table. And I wasn't serving dinner. I was serving consequences. That night, I got a call from the magazine editor who published my sister's recipe. I'd sent them a message, politely informing them that the chestnut sage stuffing they featured had been written by me. I attached the original document, dated 2 years earlier. They were concerned. She asked if I wanted public credit. I didn't answer right away, because what I wanted wasn't credit. It was recognition. It was truth. Instead, I gave them something better, the full recipe and a story behind it. My story. They agreed to pull the original feature and run a new one, with my byline. Heirloom redemption, they called it. Classy, poetic. I would have gone with my family tried to serve me like leftovers, but whatever. The article was set to publish in 3 days. And on day 2, my sister called. Twice. I ignored the first one. The second time, I picked up. I don't know why. Maybe part of me wanted to believe she could apologize. She didn't. Instead, her voice came sharp, defensive. Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to destroy us publicly? Destroy you? I said calm. I'm just telling my story. You're making mom cry. This isn't fair. What wasn't fair, I replied, was watching you all toast over my food while I sat outside your circle. She didn't have a comeback. So she changed tactics. Look, I know we've had tension, but you're still family. Let's just let it go. I hung up. Because let's just let it go is how abusers stay comfortable. I didn't want their comfort anymore. The night before the article dropped, I got an anonymous tip. Someone DM'd me screenshots from a private family group chat. One I was no longer in. Messages between my mom, sister, aunts, cousins. Planning a damage control dinner. Trying to get ahead of the article. Let's just say he's unstable. Say he's always been dramatic. Remind people he lived with mom for 2 years rent-free. That part was true. But they left out why. Because I paid the medical bills when dad had surgery. I took the night shifts at the hospital. I was the one who quit my job to care for him when no one else would. Rent-free? They couldn't afford me. I screenshotted it all. And I saved the final blow. The article dropped the next morning. My inbox exploded. News outlets, blogs, podcasts. Everyone wanted me to tell the story, but I held out because I had one final piece to drop. A video. A clip from a Thanksgiving 3 years ago. Dad's last one before his heart attack. He's sitting at the table, hand on my shoulder, looking at the camera. He says, "You know, all these people show up for the turkey. But this guy? He is the turkey, the stuffing, the whole damn meal. If he ever stops cooking, this family would starve." He laughed. Nobody else did, because they knew he was right. I posted that video, captioned it. He saw it. They pretended not to. I'm done pretending to. What happened next? It wasn't just revenge. It was revolution. The morning after the article and video went live, I expected silence. What I got was fire. Emails, DMs, shares. An editor from The Atlantic reached out. "Would you be open to writing a column about food, family, and betrayal?" she asked. Meanwhile, my sister posted a story on Instagram. A photo of a burning pie. Caption, "Some people just love to ruin Thanksgiving." Classy. But what she didn't know was that her post confirmed exactly what I wanted, her panic. And when people panic, they slip. My cousin, who always stayed quiet at family events. Kelsey, the one who whispered, "You deserved better," the night Grandma's ring was handed to my sister instead, messaged me next. "I have screenshots," she said, "of the original chat. From the 'You're not family anymore' conversation. Want them?" She sent them. Unfiltered. Raw. Brutal. It wasn't just the joke. It was a thread that went on for weeks, mocking my decision to stay single, my failure to move out, and even my therapy sessions. "We all have trauma," my mother had written. "But he acts like it's a job." "Honestly," said my uncle, "he was born sensitive. He cooks because he's too soft to fight." I had cooked for them every Thanksgiving for 11 years. 11. And they'd reduced it all to some twisted power play. I posted a new update, but this time, I did it with clarity, not rage. They called me too soft to fight, so I stopped fighting to stay. I'll cook for people who feed me back, with love, not guilt. That post hit 300,000 views in under an hour. And then came the knock. On my actual door. It was Aunt Dana, of all people, holding a pie. Pumpkin. Store-bought. Not even from the good place downtown. "I just want to talk," she said, voice trembling. "You didn't have to go this far. It's tearing us apart." I looked at her, then said nothing, because they had already torn it apart. I just refused to stitch it back together with guilt. She kept talking. "I know what they did was wrong," she said. "But this is public." I smiled, tight and quiet. "Yeah," I said. Just like the humiliation I felt when I wasn't let inside the house on Thanksgiving. She blinked. I didn't know they'd go that far. I laughed once, low, sharp. "You were on the call, Dana. You laughed. I heard you. You said I could leave the food on the porch, like Uber Eats. Remember that?" Silence. She turned to go, pie still in hand. "You can leave that on the porch," I said. She did. Then I locked the door behind her. That night, something wild happened. One of my favorite chefs, someone with 1.2 million followers on Instagram, shared my story. "Respect to the guy who remembered food is sacred," he wrote. Then another. Then another. And then came the invite. A producer from a major cooking competition show messaged. "We're revamping season 10. This time it's not just about food, it's about story. You've got both. Want to talk?" I said yes. Not for fame, but because this was the moment I stopped being the family's unpaid cook and started becoming the chef of my own destiny. But just when I thought I'd buried my past under success, I got a certified letter from a lawyer, my mother's lawyer, alleging emotional distress and defamation resulting in reputational damage. They wanted a retraction. They wanted an apology. And, get this, $18,000 in damages. I sat at my kitchen counter, letter in hand, while my phone buzzed with offers, support, congratulations. And all I could think was, they would rather sue me than say sorry. But they'd forgotten something important. I'd kept everything. Receipts, emails, voicemails, even old texts about Thanksgiving shopping lists that proved I was always the one coordinating, paying, carrying. I called a lawyer. He read through the letter. Laughed. "Defamation?" he said. "Truth isn't defamation." I filed a response. Denied. And then, I published their letter. Blurred the names. Posted it as a cautionary tale. Some families break your heart. Others send a bill for it. That post hit 2.1 million views in 24 hours. People messaged saying they canceled holiday dinners with toxic families after reading it. Others said they finally understood why boundaries were love. And then, someone from the family broke rank. Not Kelsey this time. Not Dana. It was Dad's brother. My godfather. He called me at 2 a.m., voice low, unsure. I saw the posts. I saw the lawyer's letter. I just want you to know, your dad knew what they were. He once told me you were the only reason he didn't walk out. I didn't cry. I wanted to. But I was empty of tears. Instead, I just whispered, thank you. Because that, finally, was something real. Something true. And I wasn't done yet. Next up, Thanksgiving my way. I woke up on Thanksgiving Day to silence. No alarms. No texts asking where the stuffing was. No reminders to pick up cranberry sauce or carve the turkey. For the first time in over a decade, I wasn't their kitchen mule. And it was intoxicating. I brewed my coffee slow. Real slow. Ate breakfast like it was sacred. Then I opened my laptop and began designing something that felt dangerous. An invitation. Digital. Elegant. Black and gold. It read, Thanksgiving dinner. Hosted by someone who actually gives a damn. No gaslighting. No guilt. No bills after dessert. You bring your hunger. I'll bring the healing. I sent it out to 10 people. None of them were blood relatives. One was a single mom from my apartment building who'd once helped me carry groceries in the rain. Another was the guy who delivered my packages. He always asked how my day was going. One was my high school teacher, Mr. Lin, who wrote in my yearbook, "You'll build something brilliant. I just hope the world deserves it." Every one of them said yes. But not before word got out. My Aunt Dana, again, couldn't help herself. She posted a photo of her own family dinner prep with the caption, "Some people host pity parties. I make pie." I didn't reply. I didn't repost. But someone else did. Kelsey. She screenshot Dana's story, added her own caption. "Imagine mocking the person who fed you for a decade." Then she tagged me. My DMs lit up. Again. This time, not with pity, but with power. People shared their own exile stories. One guy wrote, "My family uninvited me for being gay. I cooked my own dinner and never went back. Watching your story helped me forgive myself." Another, "I've never related to a stranger more. I brought stuffing to a party I wasn't allowed inside. Thanks for making that feel valid." The day went from lonely to holy. At 6 p.m. sharp, guests arrived. One by one, they walked in and froze. "This looks like a magazine shoot," said Mr. Lin. I smiled. That's the point. We laughed. We ate. We gave thanks. And halfway through dessert, rosemary pumpkin pie, by the way, I heard a sound I hadn't expected. A knock at the door. I opened it. There she was. My mother. In a fur-trimmed coat. Holding nothing. Not even a sorry. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice all frost and wine. I didn't move. "I saw your little Thanksgiving stunt," she said. "You think this is cute?" I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "You didn't invite me," she snapped. "After everything I've done." "No," I said, voice calm. "You invited everyone, but me for years. Consider this balance." She looked like she wanted to slap me. Or cry. Or both. "I'm your mother. And I was your cook," I replied. "Until I stopped showing up for people who only fed me crumbs. You're ruining this family's reputation." I laughed. "You ruined it with the punchline. You're not family anymore. Remember that." She said nothing. So I kept going. "You laugh when I dropped off food like a stranger. You watched as they left me on the porch like I was delivering takeout. You didn't even call me. I didn't think you'd be so sensitive." There it was. That word again. Sensitive. As if decency was a flaw. As if feeling was failure. I took a step back. Looked her dead in the eyes. "Go home," I said. She didn't move. "You're not welcome here," I added. The door closed behind me like a seal. Inside, someone raised a glass. "To chosen family," they said. We toasted. We didn't talk about pain anymore. We talked about healing. And I realized, right then, the legacy I came from wasn't mine anymore. I was building a new one. But the next day, a voicemail. From my father's old friend, someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year. "Hey, I don't know if you've heard," he said, his voice low. "But there's something you need to know about your dad's will, and your name's on it." Big. My hands froze. My coffee spilled. And everything, was about to unravel again. That voicemail echoed in my mind like a drumbeat I couldn't unhear. "There's something you need to know about your dad's will, and your name's on it." Big. I hadn't spoken to Carl, my father's business partner, in almost a year. The last time we'd crossed paths was at Dad's retirement dinner. You know, the one I wasn't invited to. The one where my ex-fiancé toasted family first while sitting in my seat. I didn't call him back right away. I let the weight of his words settle like dust on old furniture. What could possibly be left for me in a man's will who once said, "You're good with your hands. Maybe try landscaping?" But curiosity has a way of clawing at silence. So, 2 days later, I met Carl at a downtown bar. Neutral ground. He slid a manila envelope across the table. Didn't even order a drink. Just said, "Your father didn't hate you. He just didn't know how to love someone who refused to fold." Inside the envelope, a single page from the will, notarized, dated 2 months before he died. In bold, centered. In the event of my death, I leave my personal restaurant assets, worth $1.2 million, to my son, Nathaniel Kane. Me. Not my sister. Not my cousin. Not the golden boy nephew they called the next in line. Me. Carl leaned in. He never stopped watching what you were building. The catering company, the charity events, your cooking videos. He told me once, the kid turned pain into art. I couldn't do that. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just sat there, fists clenched under the table, because now I understood. The silence from my family wasn't just neglect. It was strategy. They knew. They knew I'd been left something. That my father had turned the tables, even posthumously. And instead of telling me, they kept it quiet. Played dumb. Made jokes. Mocked me on Thanksgiving. Because if I never claimed it, that money would have cycled back to them. Eventually, my mother, with her spotless kitchen and spotless conscience, probably thought I'd never find out. But I had. And I wasn't just claiming what was mine. I was going to burn what was theirs. The next 48 hours were war planning. I met with Carl again. Brought in a lawyer friend from college, Sasha, who owed me a favor. I once saved her wedding when her caterer bailed last minute. Funny how food and fate collide. We filed paperwork to formally take control of the assets. 2 restaurants, one high-end downtown, the other a rustic bistro in the suburbs. Both still functioning. Both still plastered with my dad's signature dishes. Recipes he stole from me years ago when I was just a nameless line cook in his kitchen. The betrayal kept unfolding like a nasty onion. Layer after layer of rot. And then came the real twist. Sasha uncovered a transaction. $76,000 transferred from one of the restaurant accounts into a personal bank account belonging to my sister. The date? 3 weeks after my father died. She'd siphoned money before the will could be executed. That wasn't just immoral. It was criminal. But I didn't press charges. Not yet. I had a better idea. I invited them all to dinner. Yup, the whole family. I sent out invites with engraved lettering, gold foil, the works. Kane Family Appreciation Night. Hosted by Chef Nathaniel Kane. A celebration of legacy, food, and truth. I rented out the downtown restaurant. Hired a live jazz band. Paid staff double. I wanted the night to drip with elegance and tension. And one by one they showed up. My mother. My sister. Cousins. The same people who said I wasn't family anymore stood at my event like guests waiting to be fed. I stood at the head of the table. Smiling. Holding a wine glass filled with apple cider. Because revenge tastes better sober. Before we eat, I said, tapping the glass, I want to share a few things. About gratitude. About truth. About debt. Their smiles wavered. And I began. I want to thank you all, I said slowly, my voice even, for giving me the silence I needed to hear the truth. I told them everything. About the will. About the assets. About the money my sister stole. About how they mocked me while waiting to inherit the scraps of a man they all pretended to love. My sister stood up mid-sentence. You're lying. I pulled out copies. Paper doesn't lie. My mother's face turned stone gray. I kept going. And then, I delivered the final blow. This is the last meal you'll ever have in anything connected to my name. Effective tonight, I've renamed both restaurants. I've rebranded them under my story, my recipes. You won't find Dad's name anywhere. You erased me. Now I'm erasing you. The lights dimmed. The band kicked up. And the waiters rolled in with the first course, rosemary stuffed quail over lemon risotto. I didn't eat with them. I walked outside, into the cool night, and breathed. It was done. Or so I thought. Because the next morning, there was a letter taped to my apartment door. No return address. Just 6 words, scribbled in sharp, familiar handwriting. You were adopted. Ask your mother. And suddenly, everything I thought I'd reclaimed was cracking at the seams. Real question, if someone laughed in your face after using you, would you cook for them again? Comment below.